Okay, I always get...
Tamara's
I'm not ready yet.
I'm not ready yet, guys.
Viral? I don't like sitting beside each other. I told Tamara this, so I'm going to say this on the podcast.
Yeah. Are we taping right now? See, this is the best intro ever. It's just super low-key, natural.
I don't like you coming near my leg either, so don't worry about it. Not you, Jared. Jared,
the best part is
he'll push the buttons and stuff. My leg will fall off.
Is there a button?
Yeah, don't touch it.
Don't touch it. Just pound it.
It's the auto eject. It just.
Have you guys seen that? It's like a viral bathroom thing. I don't know where it is. It's like at some gas station in the States, and it says do not push this button, and then it
already
pushes the button.
Opening ever.
Yeah, and then the lights turn. It's this whole viral thing that people try to find this bathroom button at a gas
station.
There it is. I think it's in Arizona.
It's actually right here.
So funny. Welcome back. I don't know when. Are we filming
what number
now?
are we now? 26, 27?
26. Joe's giving thumbs up. He's also doing
26. Joey
26,
doesn't know.
27.
He has no idea. He's just the guy behind the computer screen. Well, we have, I always say this, but every guest is super special.
Yeah.
Every guest is super special. And today we have Jared and Mike.
Yeah.
Hi.
So far, so good, Tamara.
Yeah. Great introductions. No, but I want them to introduce themselves.
Yeah, I think that's good. There's a lot of things that you guys have here to talk about. And so we want to make sure that we catch it all.
I'm usually type A. I have a layout and everything in front of me. And I'm, hammering out the questions. But I just think there's so much.
I told
So
Tamara
you're like Jared.
stuff.
And I'm the opposite. I just wing it. I just wing it.
When Tamara's involved, unless we're going on a trip. If we're on a trip, we switch roles.
Just show up.
Tamara shows up. I plan the trip. But if it's podcast, Tamara plans podcast. I just show up.
Yeah.
Jared does all the planning for me. He just points me in the right direction, and I just go.
Sure. It's more authentic, I feel for podcast if I'm coming from a genuine place of curiosity. But I don't know too much.
I do like to do my research, and I have done my research on the both of you. So I just want you guys.
I'd like to know what you've researched on
quiz her. Ask her questions.
This is good. I was like, oh boy.
Okay, who wants to start? Mike, you want to start?
My name is Michael Lachlan from Kingston, Ontario, and a few years back now, 8 years ago, I was in a motorcycle accident and broke my neck and my back and lost my leg. And I was a firefighter at the time for 16 years, so I became Canada's first and still only full-time firefighter with an above-knee amputation.
Is there 3 in the world still?
So there's 4 now. Yeah,
okay.
We helped a guy in Sweden actually got in contact with us, and the other guys and myself helped him learn how to navigate the testing to get back.
Wow.
That's incredible.
Big deal. Congrats.
So, and then there's way more to the story before that, but that's just...
we're going to get there. Don't you worry.
Oh, we will.
And Jared is...
And Jared, my friend Jared over here.
I don't have my story. So I'm originally from Kingston.
Yes.
Mike and I have known each other since we're 10, played hockey together, grew up. I left Kingston when I was 18 to go play hockey and pursue that dream. Mm-hmm. So I went to Brown University in the States, played hockey there, played some semi-pro after that, tried to make the NHL and do that. Fell short, really short of that dream. But
he was a really good hockey player.
I'm pretty proud of that career. And then now I live, fast forward all the stuff, but live in Toronto area with my wife and 2 kids, have financial services practice. I'm a financial planner and do some keynote speaking, wrote some books, became a bestseller with one of the books I wrote. And then when Mike and I got together to create Untapped 60, I guess I had more experience in that department, growing and blowing that up and trying to make it big, right?
Can you explain what is behind the Untapped 60 in the book, the meaning of it?
So the Untapped, everyone asks that, where'd Untapped 60 come from? That's a good place to start. So it's been said, I don't know if it's researched or proven, but it's been said, and I believe it, that when you're at your absolute worst, and you've got, like I said, a pretty crazy story too. So when you're at your absolute worst, financially, spiritually, emotionally, physically, whatever it is, and you're at complete rock bottom.
Like rock bottom's basement is what I like to call it.
Right. So and everyone's rock bottom's basement is different.
Yeah.
But when you're there, it's said that you're at about 40% of your human potential.
Okay.
And I believe that because there's, you've heard of stories where the moms can pick up cars off their kids in some situation. Mike's got a story. I say this every time. A woman came out of fire, wrapped her arms around the kid, walked out of the fire, completely burnt. But how do you do that, right? Mm-hmm. So these wild stories you hear. So I believe that when you have nothing left, you're at about 40% of your human potential. And I would say, I don't know this number, maybe there's 10, 15% that you're never going to tap into. That's for adrenaline and life-saving situations, right? but then that untapped 60%. Untapped 60.
I love
of
that.
Human potential. Where,
That's beautiful.
how do we get into
Super
that?
smart.
Right. How do we get in? How do we tap into that untapped human potential? Whether it's, and then what we're talking about is, we don't need you to be at rock bottom. How do you get better how do you get 10% better in your podcast? Right? How do you tap into that?
Yeah.
Do you work out before? Do you drink water? Do you laugh before? Do you get the right people on there? How do you make it that much better? In corporate, in business, when you're looking at massive companies, Amazon, right? There's X amount of employees. There's typically, your bottom 20% of employees who, might come in and out of the company, and they're important, but they're going to leave no matter what,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Then your upper echelon of employees, say there's about 20% there who are motivated, you pay them well, you treat them well. They don't really need, I don't want to say leadership, but they don't need as much guidance because they're just going to do it, right?
Yeah.
And you want to just be there to support them. Then there's that middle 60% from a corporate standpoint of how do we tap into this 60% to move some of them up to the 20, right? Keep them motivated. How do we inspire them? So there's a corporate side and the personal side as well with the Untapped 60. So
I think it's such a beautiful thing too, because I tell people this all the time. They're like, how do you still live knowing what's gone on in your life? And I always say, because as a human soul, we're so resilient. And like, I think, and I know this because we're all doing it in some way or another. I mean, it's a very
everyone has a
obvious
story.
thing. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's just like, resilience is such a beautiful thing. And I think, when needed, that resilience steps in, or that adrenaline kicks in. I mean, that's insane for you to
I have a
witness
question too.
carrying her child.
I did the first aid on her when she came out, and she literally covered her children and knew she was going to get burnt and did it to save them. And she's like, they always say, firefighters are heroes, and but we're just doing our job. That lady was a hero. She saved her children. They would be dead right now.
Because it's like unconditional love. Right?
She was
better. This
completely
is way
burned.
better.
It was
Comfy.
terrible. Her skin was coming off. I was bandaging it, pouring saline on it. Like, it was a mess. And I just kept saying to her, like, you're a hero.
Yeah. I have two questions. Holy cow.
So it's
I have
starting.
two questions. I have one for each of you, and they're both about different things, because I know that we'll I never stay on track. I'm like a squirrel.
I love it.
So that's
She
why
is.
I'm, yeah.
She's squirrel skinny.
Okay, so my question for you, Jarrett, is when you're talking about the U60 and whichever direction you take it, corporate or not, is this how do I ask this? Is it group based? Is it always group based? Do you have a network that you connect everybody that's participating with you? Does that make sense?
yeah, I wouldn't say it's group based, because that sounds very coaching to me, and that's something Lachlan and I definitely we're not into the, never say never. We're not into this one-on-one coaching or group coaching. So the keynote speaking that we're doing, traveling around Canada and the United States, sure, that's for corporations, right? But if a group of 10 want to say, hey, we want to hire you for your keynote, we want to hear the story, and we're interested in all that, then we'll do it for a group of 10.
Understood. Okay.
Every single time Mike has given his chat over the past 10 years, and every time we've done our chat now over the past year, I don't know what the number is, 30%, 40%, 50% of the people come up afterwards, and they're moved. They open up. I was just telling you a story about, all of a sudden a mother came up and told us she'd lost her child, and we were just like, whoa. And someone stood up when we did the Queens one. Someone stood up and literally goes, it brought tears to my eyes, and it wasn't even a bad. She just goes, God, I needed this. I used to be a weightlifter. I tweaked my back, and I can barely move, and I was complaining. She goes, I needed this so bad. She goes, nothing's wrong with me. And I go, no. She goes, I said, no, that hurts. She goes, yeah, but come on.
Just to kind of kick her.
She just needed to hear something of someone, and it wasn't even severe, of you know what, go to the gym or stretch. I'm fine.
Yeah.
Someone stands up and goes, wow. And we made these cards. I was telling Lachlan, we made these cards that we hand out with the book. I said, let's just come up with every word we can that can connect with someone.
Right.
And I said to him, I go, I'm pretty sure we hit every single thing. And I wasn't trying to come up with words, be like, let's try and sell it. I go resilience, perseverance, motivation, but then
stuff that we've used.
There was
in our
addiction,
lives.
right? Family addiction, his own addiction. Then there was recovery. There was rock bottom. There was inspiration. Every single word, I'm like, everyone would look at this and someone would go, I got
Resonate.
that,
I can
that.
relate.
Like
Yeah.
somewhere. And
Yeah.
there's happiness, recovery, family, love. There's French. I'm like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 8 of those. You've got 12 of those.
Yeah.
Right.
Like a spectrum almost,
Yeah,
right?
and between the two of us, I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure we could, your story along with our story, and a little bit more that I add to it from my experience, I think we can, there's something for everyone.
When you take
something for
away
everyone.
all the details, right? If you take away all the details, even for all of us right here, everybody has their story. Everybody has been, a victim to something in their lives. And so when you take away the details, though, it's those words and those feelings that bring everybody together, and we're actually all the same, right?
Absolutely. We
Right.
are. We all
It
need
sounds
to
like-
talk, and we all need help.
Yeah,
some
and you're
area.
creating like a space of vulnerability for people.
Have you ever seen that? There was a thing on, we can just random talk, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
This is
you talk about
podcast.
squirrels.
Yeah.
You talk about squirrels. Edit it out. I sent this. Look, I might have sent it to you a while ago too. There was this. It was a social experiment. There was a room full of like 100 random people, and I'm talking. There were doctors,
Right.
people in suits, bikers, gang members, moms, and I'm like, you would look and go, this is
Diverse.
wildly random.
I
And then
have seen that.
The questions. Step forward if you've never had a father.
Yeah.
Step forward if you've lost a loved one. Step forward if you've made $1 million. Step forward, and all
You've been
of
a
a
victim to
sudden,
bullying and like
and right, all of a sudden the biker steps forward.
Yeah, biker steps
I
forward.
don't have a mom. The doctor.
Right.
I don't have a mom either. Right, and all of a sudden, like by the end, you're like, everyone's
It is
Human.
beautiful. It is
We're all
a beautiful
humans.
video. Yeah.
really cool.
Right?
Isn't
Yeah.
that
Well,
amazing? We're human.
And it's the judging part of it, right? Because like
Yeah.
I've said to you with the his biker gang and stuff, he sends me a picture, and I'm like, I go, you look like a biker gang. He goes, 4 people in that picture are like chief of police and
Yep.
firefighters, and I'm like, you all look crazy.
It's so true. It's so true. Because
automatic.
people judge you as soon as they see you. They think you're like a 1% biker and you're a criminal.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they're literally police officers
You're all first
and
responders.
firefighters and corrections officers, and like they're all people that help people.
Yeah. Right.
So don't judge people by don't judge the book by its cover.
Love it.
Right? The old saying.
I love that. Okay, amazing. So my second question is, because this is just jumping back, when you said this story about like that woman and bringing her out, like how my uncle's a paramedic and he had to leave that field because he's getting ready to retire now, but he had to leave that because he would just witness so many painful things. How has that experience affected you, and how do you kind of like separate? Like who was it? I was talking to somebody and they said like, if they're doing it and they're put in that situation to be like life-saving, they can jump in and fill this role. But if they were to like have to go get blood taken at a doctor's office, they're like a big baby about it. So like,
So I've been doing this for many years, and before, I'll tell you right now, before I had kids, I was a stone. You could not shake me. I've seen it all. I've seen dead children in car accidents, and dead babies that we've had to do CPR on. People burnt to a crisp, literally, grabbing them, pulling them out of fire, and their skin's coming off. I've seen all that stuff. And until I had a child,
yeah.
it's making me friggin' right now. I just can't imagine like these people losing their children and stuff like that. And so it never bothered me until I had Lincoln. And
Okay.
And now, so as I was doing not CPR, doing first aid on this lady, and saw those kids crying, and they're sitting there, there's no one around. This is an active fire scene, and
Take your time.
the 3-year-old's like hugging me, and he won't let go.
Aw.
And I just felt so bad, and their mom's burnt to a crisp, and it's like, it's hitting home for me for the first time in my career.
Okay.
And I was fighting this right now.
Yeah.
And I didn't do it on the scene, but I fought it the entire time, not crying on the scene, because you can't.
And after,
right? You have to be
you
that
just-
rock.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you right
that's
now,
a
I went back to the
lot.
station and I found a quiet room and did this.
Yeah.
But because it's just like, I didn't have these emotions before Lincoln.
Interesting.
there.
You
how
did.
that
You
changed.
did, right? But that's when like that tough
It
guy look-
softened you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The toughest guy I know
Look
turned
at
into softest
Just a puddle.
softest puppy shit.
It's not a bad thing, right? It's
I-
not a
Softest
bad
puppy
thing.
shit now.
Because as I'm talking about this, I can picture these poor little kids.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, right? Like,
The
it's just
first,
like,
the
and just
first-
like clawing to me.
Yeah.
And
What
that
a fear.
that reminds me, like Gwendolyn's. So I'm from a little area, South Shore.
down in South Shore.
Little down south, and little gal. And we have a fire department, Dorland area, super small. So the night with the first responders that came to Gwendolyn's, my daughter's call, these people so well, right?
Yeah.
And there's such a community around you. So when they showed up, my heart I was like, okay, everything's going to be okay. They're going to save her because I know this guy personally, and he's strong and he's mighty and he's good. And I remember after he had to take a long time off because the post-traumatic stress that he endured when dealing with Gwendolyn was just so significant. And, and he just said, I have kids of my own, but it's never affected me this much. And so looking at somebody who's so strong and confident in what they're doing, and then having to experience that, it definitely changes you.
Yeah,
for sure.
Mike, what kind of mental health supports do you have through your work?
So we do have an EAP program, but unfortunately you have to do the work yourself. You have to contact them. And the problem is people won't do that for themselves.
It's hard. That's the starting point.
There's a couple of us at work now that go around and we recognize what's going on. And
try to identify.
And if we hear about someone struggling, we go and talk to them, and we just take it upon ourselves to do it.
Yeah.
We're not assigned to it. We are going to go forward to the deputy chief and present him with a plan and say we need representation amongst the firefighters.
Because you guys are the first responders.
Yeah.
You are typically the first ones to the scene.
All the time.
I've said
So I
it,
just got off work this morning, and we ran 4 medical calls last night, and we were there on average 15 minutes before an ambulance showed up. So
we're talking about how tired we are, you and I.
I am tired.
I got 3 hours sleep last night. It was a busy night. But there are nights where we get more sleep.
Tired.
He's one of the chirpers that you
tired.
sleep at work.
I sleep at
Yeah,
work.
we do. We live there for 24 hours. So
I
we have a
couldn't
nap here
imagine
and there.
just sleeping knowing what
I couldn't
be called
sleep.
into.
I
don't
can't
think
even
I
nap
could,
at home.
I mean, it's 24 years of this now, so it's just
It's just
I wake
you
up and
become
you snap into
accustomed.
action and you go. When you're new, you do sit there and worry.
I would be like,
Yeah.
I can't breathe.
Yeah, you are ready to go.
Can't breathe.
That's like Owen fell off the bed last night, and I just was already standing up before I even heard the sound.
Yeah.
And then- yeah.
See, yeah. It's a mother's
Going
instinct.
back to that EAP stuff, I've had numerous conversations with cop friends of ours.
Yep.
And where I live now, I know a ton of them too. And my best friends are police officers. I've said this for years, and I'm watching PTSD slowly creep in, and friends now are off on PTSD. And one of the last conversations with a buddy in Kingston here, we were going somewhere together, and he'd said, "Oh, I went to a call last week or something like that, and there was a baby," and I looked him in the eyes and I go, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, I'm fine." I go, "No, you're not." No. And I go, "You're not supposed to be, and that's okay."
And you don't have to be.
And you don't have to, and that's okay. Can you get through it? Sure. I go, but it's okay to be cry in a room by
what
yourself.
I just witnessed.
Yes.
Really bad.
I go, you weren't trained for that. Right? And then that's the part I've been saying, but the conversation, Locke and I have had it too, with fire services or police services, is you run up the chain and they go, okay, so, go hire the person. Go find them. Oh, it's $150,000 a year to have them on staff. Okay, where's that money coming from?
Right.
I'm like, got it. So, but yeah, to take it on yourself, go to a call, go home afterwards, and I got to go to my kids' hockey, my wife, I groceries. No, sorry, I had a tough night. I got to go take an hour, go straight to a therapist.
You can't do
To
that.
debrief.
Who I don't- who I don't have.
Time.
Yeah.
To debrief.
It doesn't
Just
happen.
to
It
unwind.
It doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen.
Just go home, carry on with your day.
Yeah, you got your life to go back to.
Right. And so
And that's where the bottling happens, right? It's, okay, I'll just shove that away, and then you just forget about it until it comes up later.
well, and you do forget about it while you're doing other stuff.
Yeah, of course
But your
you do.
subconscious doesn't forget about it, and that's
I guess
happens. And
in your line of works, and and you might see it too. Is there a lot of bad coping mechanisms? What would that look like?
Oh my gosh.
Good
Because
question, Mary.
I lived a double life for a long time.
On the
So
job coping mechanisms.
Drinking,
Yeah.
the number one for
Yeah.
police and fire and
Wow.
paramedics.
Okay.
They go home and they drink. I know guys that got off shift this morning, and
And they're
I
gonna go
guarantee
unwind.
they went at 8:00 in the morning, went and started drinking.
Yeah.
I know
just to
guys that
unwind.
drink on the way home.
Okay, well,
in the car
okay,
from their shift.
I do too. I'm not gonna name names, but
Well, no, we don't. But they, yeah.
I'm
100%.
just
Wow.
thinking like how, yeah, because for a long time after Gwendolyn, I'm good, I'm fine. I was at the gym like 4 days after, like, and to think the shock value that I was going through at the time is just so scary to me. But like with first responders, the shock value that you guys are reintroducing yourself to, and like I know for me, it was the coping mechanism of getting through my day and then drinking until I pass out. Like that's scary.
So you know all about it. You know all about
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And so mine wasn't drinking. Mine was painkillers. And I was like,
yes, I heard.
take a few of them,
Yeah.
and I'll forget about everything. And I did for a long time.
Yeah.
And it was obviously it ended badly.
Yeah.
I got arrested, and then.
And this was
yeah,
after
it was a
your.
mess.
So
This was after my first after my first accident, I got addicted to painkillers.
So this wasn't his only accident, guys. This was a second accident.
Yeah. So the first accident.
First one's nothing at this point.
No.
Yeah.
Like we
no.
go through
So
it. I'm like,
in
this is just an
2007,
accident.
I was out snowmobiling.
Yep.
Country
Ontario?
kid, right? Always did. Yep. So I was actually on Lobra Lake, and I was following the guy in front of me, and it was snowing really hard, and it was midnight, pitch black, -20, and it's snowing like sideways, and I'm trying to keep up with the guy in front of me, because if I lose his light, I feel like I'm gonna get lost out there.
Right.
And I've been
Which is
lost.
terrifying.
Yeah.
It's terrifying in the middle of a lake. You could drive around till you run out of gas and then freeze to death.
Yeah.
You don't know. So I kept speeding up, and I'd see his light, and then I'd lose his light, and I'd speed up, and I'd lose his light, and I just kept doing that, and then eventually I lost his light. So I speeding up, and I'm speeding up, and to the point where I was doing about 80 miles an hour. I was flying across this lake, trying to catch up to him. And these things go fast. These snowmobiles,
Yeah.
right? And so I'm going along, and all of a sudden, from me to that wall away was an island, and I'm doing 80 miles an hour, and I literally let go of the handlebars, and I said, "I'm dead."
Do you still remember that feeling?
100%, because it went
He does
quiet
it every time.
and it
It's the
went
exact same thing.
still,
He does the exact same thing every time. Every time he talks.
and then I sat up, and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm alive." And I looked down, and this leg was straight 90 that way at my femur. And I'm like, holy shit! I just, I broke my femur. Oh my God! And so I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? So I grabbed my phone. It was the flip phones back then. Flip it open, 911. The phone dies. Right? It was low on batteries.
Yeah.
It's -20. Those things used to die
Yeah.
in that cold.
Yeah, absolutely.
Throw the phone. I'm like, what am I gonna do? So I'm like, okay, what do I got? And I started going through my pockets, and I got a lighter. I'm like, okay. And every once in a while, there's a break in the snow, and I could see there was a cottage on this island. I'm like, okay, I'm going to crawl to the cottage. I'm going to light it on fire. And then
Somebody
the
will surely
100-foot
come.
flames,
Eventually.
everyone's going to see it. And they're going to come out here, and they'll find me. So I started crawling. And I remember I was crawling. And as I was crawling, I remember I'd move my butt, and then I'd pull my leg. Move my leg.
Oh my
And I could
God.
feel my femur coming apart. And I was like, I was at a 10 out of 10 pain.
Yeah.
And I crawled, and then I laid down. And I said, just die. Get it over with.
This
I
is
don't want to
enough.
fight this anymore. I've been...
This is really hard.
You're at your peak pain for a little while. Like, it just drains you,
Surprised
right?
your body didn't go into some sort of
So,
shock. And
some people do, some people don't. I'm obviously able to stay in control of my shock pretty well.
Yeah.
And I knew that. That's the other thing, is I know about shock. So I knew that consciously. I'm like, don't go into shock, be in control, fix this before you lay down. So anyways, I did. I laid down and tried to die. And then I started thinking, I can't do this to my parents. Like, my mom will be devastated. My friends, I can't do this. So I started crawling again, and I crawled for another 10 minutes, and then I laid down the second time, and I tried to die. And then some other things went through my head. I was like, I'm supposed to be this big, tough firefighter, hockey fighter.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks I'm the toughest, and if I lay down and die, they're gonna think I'm not tough. They're gonna think I'm a wuss. So I got to keep going. It's funny, but I just found motivation in that. So and I kept
absolutely.
going, and then I kept going, and like all of a sudden I could hear a snowmobile, and the guy had gotten to the other side, realized I was not
was
with him.
coming back.
He was searching for me, and I heard the snowmobile shut off. Obviously where I had hit, there was pieces of snowmobile everywhere. It
Right.
disintegrated, and to the point where my friend went out with the only way they could pick the snowmobile up is they towed out an aluminum boat and threw all the pieces in, the hundreds of pieces.
Wow.
That's how bad it was. So anyways, I'm like, it was the guy I was with. I'm like, grab me, drag me on the back of your snowmobile, and drive me in the shore. I got to get to the hospital. And I remember he's like, oh, okay. And he's like all white. And he's like, he's in more shock than I
No
am,
kidding.
right?
I would be.
And,
I feel like
so
that
I'm
right
like,
now.
That's a murder scene.
I'm
Yeah.
like, Timmy, do it. I'm going
you
to scream.
can't
I'm going to tell you no. just don't listen and get me on the back of the snowmobile. He's like, I can do that. Yeah, I'll do that. He grabs me. I'm like, fuck, stop. And he stops. I'm like, oh, Timmy, I told you not to stop. And he's like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Imagine
Right?
being
And
26 years old.
I'd be like, I'm
27.
not touching
Like,
you.
what do you do?
Yeah. So anyways, he got me on the back of the snowmobile the second time and we drove in. Every single bump, I remember it was so cold that the lake was pretty frozen and it was pretty bumpy and I felt my femur just going crack, 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 crack together. And I was
Well,
like,
yeah, you're hitting like all those
I must have been-
pressure cracks.
Yes. So I must have been squeezing him so hard. I was just anyways, we got to shore. The story gets funnier here though, because he's like, I phoned before we left there and I got a truck waiting for us. It's good, right? And so we get there and it's this jacked up Ford monster
Country.
truck. The floorboards are like 6
have them in
feet.
Newburgh. You have
and
the
they're
same
trying
trucks
to.
out in Newburgh.
Yeah, we're in Newburgh.
Same ones.
It was Joe's truck.
They're like, trucks are lower than 10 feet off the ground? We've never seen it. What are you talking about?
Of course, they're trying to push me up into this truck and my legs coming apart and I'm screaming. I'm like, and we to the point where we stopped. I'm like, get another car. Anyways, we had actually gotten, and this is part of the story. I never really included her in it because I didn't ask her, but Laura Meggs ended up, I woke her up and she came and got me.
the
That
car,
was
I
my
knew that.
girlfriend at the time and drove me in. And I remember we got to emerge. And I don't remember much of that ride. I was in a lot of pain.
Yeah,
but we got to emerge.
I just slept. I just relaxed on the way to
Well,
the
I remember I took a knife and I cut off my snowmobile suit with a knife, and I had jeans on, and my leg was so swollen that the seams of the jeans were busting.
We're busting in.
You can imagine the pressure that would take to bust jeans.
them.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, the jeans were saving me. They were holding me together. And so I get there and a nurse comes out and with a wheelchair and he opens the door and he looks at me and goes, holy shit. And he goes back in and he comes back out with a gurney and 6 people. So I'm like, oh, I must look great. Right.
Here we go.
Yeah. And so there's part that I didn't know that he saw. So I get in there and it's like bees buzzing and they do all their stuff, get me in a gown. I'm laying there waiting to go into surgery. And I love this part of the story because I don't always add it, but I can add it with you guys. This little old nurse comes in and she's like, I'm gonna put your catheter in. I'm like, sure, all right. I didn't know what a catheter was. I was 26. I'd never been in the hospital before. Like literally never.
Yeah.
I broke
Were you a
my-
firefighter at this point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean,
didn't know.
we
But
don't-
didn't know.
Yeah.
didn't know what a catheter was. Why we don't deal with that?
No.
So I'm like, yeah, go ahead. And so she grabs the gown, whips it back, grabs me, and goes to jam this. And I go, whoa! And I push her, and she falls on the ground. And so this little old lady falls on the ground, and she gets up, and she just kind of smiles at me. And I'm like,
It's probably not the first time that's
well,
happened.
and I'm like, I go, you're freaking right. Get out of here. Right? And she leaves. Literally 2 minutes later, in comes 4 porters, guys.
Ooh.
They pin me down, and she's like, and so like
Screw you.
when I pushed her,
I'm going
yeah, when I pushed her, she knew that was gonna happen. She's like, I'm gonna win.
Here you are
So,
with your leg
yeah.
hanging off. So you have steel in this.
Yeah,
leg,
so I
titanium?
woke up the next morning and my leg's in a huge, like, big halo.
Yeah.
So I have 33 pins and screws. I have 8 screws that go holding my brand new titanium kneecap on there. I have a titanium rod for a femur with 22 pins and screws holding all that together. And then the other thing was I had the cast on. And I'm like, why do I have a cast on my arm? I used my arm. I pulled myself up.
Yeah.
I was doing all this stuff. I didn't hurt my arm. And the doc's like, well, your ulna was sticking out through your skin. You had a compound fracture the whole time. And that
my
was part of
God.
like what
That's
the
his knee.
nurse must have seen.
That's that side.
Okay.
And I didn't even notice because I was in
Right.
shock and
Yeah.
I was worried about
That's
my
your
leg.
leg.
That's Mike's knee.
That's his.
Oh yeah, he's got
I
some
don't want to
pictures.
see it.
No, it's really cool. It's on titanium.
Oh, I love this shit.
Oh, it's not like broken.
Oh,
no.
it's
That's
not
his arm.
that.
It's just
That's
X-rays.
his arm.
It's
The big
X-rays.
slate in his arm.
That's crazy. Do you get like the jokes all the time that you're like bionic man and
Well,
Obviously,
I mean,
yeah. My whole bottom, my whole bottom half.
A joke. It's not a joke.
I've actually been asked before, like several times. Is your thing also right? Does it work? Is it
yeah.
titanium? I'm like, yeah, no. My
Like,
wife, that's why my
depends.
wife likes me. I mean, otherwise she'd be able to be here.
funny.
so it couldn't have been that leg that this
Exactly
the second accident
right.
happened to, eh?
Right. So I went back to playing hockey. I was a catcher in fastball. Firefighting, you would never know I was in an accident, except for
Yeah.
those huge scars I have.
Yeah.
I went back to completely normal. 8 months later, I was back on the job, full duties as a firefighter. Like I was motivated to get back. Right. And I was 26. I was in shape.
Yeah,
And I just-
absolutely. I
and-
do want to get into the nitty gritty though, because you were talking about your coping mechanism with the opiates, and was that because
I walked out of that hospital with a jug of Percocets.
Yeah.
And the prescription to OxyContin.
And back then it wasn't really regulated.
Yeah.
My doctor was like, yeah, as many as you want. Take them. And so that went on for almost 3 years.
Yeah.
And to the point where, oh no, you can't be doing that. They said to the doctors,
Then they started
right?
to regulate it.
And my doctor cut me right off.
Oh.
And I was like, okay. And I didn't know I didn't know I was addicted. I just took them every day.
Yeah. It's just like a Tylenol.
Go away. So I didn't know I was
I was so
Didn't know I was
sick.
addicted. I just took
Till after the
Well,
fact.
is it not? It's not opiates like one of the hardest. Well, with
It's
alcohol
like
as
heroin.
well, coming down from it.
It's heroin, right? It's like it's the worst.
Yeah.
I always thought I was dying, and then so eventually I figured out, okay, I need some more. Doctor's not going to give them to me. Bought them illegally. So that went on for a bit, and then I finally had a small intervention with some friends of mine, and they're like,
Were you included in this?
He knew what was going on.
Yeah,
He
I wasn't. I got the call from the guys and we talked. I go, who came? And he mentioned the guys. I go, yep. And he called me and said, this is what we're doing. And I go, okay. I don't need to be there, but I'm here, right? Because I knew kind of I knew the outcome, right? I knew what he would do, and the guys going at the time. I'm like, we're good.
Right.
Jarrett, you're like a little bit of your bio on your website explains that you had faced a lot of adversity too. And did you ever have a problem with addiction?
No, so I had some familia addiction and dealt with alcoholism in my family.
Okay.
I would say my biggest challenge I had to overcome financially throughout my life. Our family never grew up with money. I always had everything I wanted.
Yeah.
So and funny, the career I'm in now as a financial planner, and Lachlan said it the best one time, because him and I worked together, so he's a client of mine, but he said it best. He said, here's a guy who grew up with no money, didn't know how to spend money, didn't know how to save money, and then I turned right into it and like walked into the storm, been like, I'm going to learn this shit.
The buffalo, man.
So I can help other people, right?
Yeah, the buffalo.
So I was like, you know what? I totally did. And maybe it's just my stubbornness, but I think back, my family, they were never educated. I go, when it comes to financial services and financial planning, I'm like, you just need to be, why would you know about it if no one ever told you, right?
Yeah.
So I'm proud that I went and did that stuff.
Well, even in school, they don't really teach. They teach you square this and that, and you're like, I don't need this bullshit. Like, how do I pay my taxes?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
It's true.
There's so many things. There's so many things to it. So, but I would say the biggest challenge, one of the biggest challenges for me was when I went to Brown, and it took me a while to talk about that, but I failed out of Brown after my second year.
Okay.
Now I had to work while I was at Brown. That's a choice.
Yeah.
So I didn't do enough schoolwork is basically what it came down to. And so at that point though, when you get an NCAA scholarship, Division I Ivy League, your NHL's kind of close,
right there.
It's you can get it. You can get it. You need to play, you need to work, but the next step is potentially the NHL.
Wow.
So to get kicked out or failed out was the hardest time of my life at that point. Because your dream just gets ripped away from you.
How old were you at the time?
22.
Young.
22, right?
Yeah.
So, and then I came home, lived in Kingston, worked at, if you guys remember, worked at Moxie's.
Yep.
Tamworth.
Oh, yeah. Played in Tamworth.
Right, just down the road.
Is it here?
Yeah.
Tamworth?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah,
Tamworth, just down the road, dude.
friend Dustin plays on the Tamworth.
Braves?
So we
started
played
it. We
senior A hockey
started the
together,
Tamworth
which like we haven't played in years together. But we played senior A hockey in Tamworth when they had the year. They had a team for 2 years.
Okay.
We were a big part of that
He
team.
just plays pickup or
Yeah.
beer league, but yeah, he plays
Tamworth.
just down.
I didn't know Tamworth was that close.
Yeah.
Dude, it's right there.
So I have driven through Newburgh.
Yeah.
So that year off, then you got to think, okay, I got to work my ass off, and I was a 50% player at school, anyways. So in the lineup, out of lineup. So it's not like, it was a time where my coach at that point could have been like, perfect, we got rid of that guy. But I got back. He let me practice. I got back to school, talked to the deans, said what I need to do. One you sit back and go, this is an Ivy League school. You can't not figure this out, right? So got back, went to summer school, went back and lived at Providence for 2 straight years, didn't come home, and got back on the hockey team. My senior year, I actually played quite a bit. I got injured, but played quite a bit. So that, I think now long-term being older, that's stayed with me, just that, I call it resilience or work ethic.
Absolutely.
Of saying just,
Yeah.
or the stubbornness, right? Just, you gotta,
Commitment.
You went through that, get it back.
Yeah.
but
refuse to
That's
fail.
really
Jared.
good at a young age.
He refuses to fail, right?
Yeah,
And that's
right.
that's in everything
Yeah.
in life.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
That's our attitude to everything in life. That's my attitude towards everything.
I think a lot of our situations, I always say often I could pull a Britney Spears and be on the streets and nobody could really judge me at this point after losing my daughter. But then I'm like, no, like I can't imagine not being there, like not turning my pain into some sort
what
of
you're doing.
purpose, right?
Look what you're doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's some days are questionable still,
But that's-
but
we all
like
have those
it's
days.
you all have, right? It's like the 60-40 mentality.
It's so funny you just said this. Some days are questionable. There's a thing on social the other day. An Olympian athlete, her coach was an Olympian athlete, and said the rule of third.
Oh.
And I go, what is this? Do you
sent
see
this
it
to
too?
me.
Oh, I did send to you.
Yeah, you sent it to me.
I go, what
I
is this?
loved it.
And it was 33% of the time it's of your day or your training or something like that's going to be great. 33% is going to be like okay, and 33% is going to be shitty. But on all the times, you still show up, you still do the work, you still move
there's
forward.
that.
And I'm like,
Yeah,
It made sense, didn't it? Yeah.
Totally,
Yeah.
because I'm like, oh, today's shitty. I'm like, oh, go do the podcast, drink the water. Like this is the Untapped
Yeah.
60, and to make it a great day, drink the water. Don't do drugs. Don't get into a fight. Don't do right.
Yeah.
Make some good decisions.
Those little things. Eat a good meal.
Yes.
Right when you're in the thick of it, drink your water. Even go outside for 5 minutes, have a good meal, and then crawl back into bed if you need to.
If
for
you
a
need
bit.
to.
I think-
100%.
Like
I
that's
think
where
it's
it came
knowing
from,
that
right?
it doesn't stay.
Yes.
Right, like that's one of the things that like I'm working through, like a lot of like my own stuff right now. I get very like angry really quickly, and I'm like working through like dealing with that anger when I get like overstimulated and stuff like that, and just like knowing that it would pass. And like I don't even know if I should tell this. You guys are like, you're like, I've been through trauma, and you're like,
This is it.
and
I know.
I'm
Jared,
like,
You gotta
well,
tell it.
believe it
You
or
got-
not, the
I
other
know.
day I'm trying to work through anger, and then let me tell you.
An egg fell on the floor, and I'm about to snap.
Literally, I moved a candle jar that hadn't set, and it was wet hot wax, and I spilled all over the counter. I was like, okay, fuck, that's fine. I'm just gonna clean it up. It's gonna be so satisfying with a credit card. I'm just gonna scrape this off. So then I'm like,
credit
I was already
card.
so pissed, and then I'm like, okay, whatever, and I'm like cleaning, and then I fucking kicked the cat fucking dishwater all over the floor, and I was like, okay, it's fine.
It
I'm gonna
escalates,
mop.
right? It
I need
keeps
to mop.
escalating, yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get the cleaner to mop, and then I'm like spraying the cleaner, and the fucking lid comes off, and it spills all over the flour. And I was like, the fucking universe is testing me,
So what should
working
you
on
do at
this
that
anger.
point? What do you think you should do at that
Fight.
point?
I
Fight
was
something.
laughing at that
Fight.
point because I was like, I was like, this is fucking hysterical. The universe
This
is
is
testing me.
awesome.
I've made a commitment to
This
work
is
through
awesome.
my anger. I know this isn't gonna pass. This is gonna pass.
I'm gonna laugh at
It's a
you,
test.
spray bottle.
It's a test.
Literally,
It's a test.
So I'm like,
100%.
I had a friend who was telling me the other day that like he was going through all this stuff when he was younger, and he like woke up that day and he's like, I'm gonna quit weed. And then he's like, this guy came up to me and was like, here's a big bag of weed for $40 because I don't need it anymore. I quit weed. And the guy's like, oh, I quit weed today. And like then like somebody else was trying to like give him weed, and he's like, I quit weed. And like the universe was like just being like throwing weed on his doorstep
Throwing weed on the
essentially, and like.
doorstep.
This was Morgan.
I was gonna say this is Morgan.
Yeah, that's Morgan. But I am really curious to jump back a little bit. I want to hear about the book. Tell me about the book.
Yeah.
I'll start in with the book in a second. I just want to comment to this.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen on social media too. Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
This round table thing. I've sent this along.
Yes,
Yeah.
This too shall pass.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, and I've sent to my sister, and I'm like, because there's days. Because what I liked about it was, when you're having a shitty day, everything's like, this too shall pass. He goes, when you're the smartest in the room and you think you're having the best day of your life and you think you're on top of the world, this too shall
Yeah,
pass.
when
Yeah.
you're at your highest,
Yeah.
this will
both.
pass.
It's
Yeah.
humility though
Like,
too,
oh, this is so
right?
bad. Just let it be. I'm like, yeah, but what are the days where I'm like,
I'm
that
walking on
passes
sunshine.
too.
Nobody can
Yeah,
touch
you're
me.
right.
But that's why you
Everything will
can't have an
pass.
ego, right?
Right.
Because you just got to be showing up like the best that you can every day.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and
Right?
I probably would have burnt
recognize
the
that.
house down. I'm just saying. It would, after all that, that was my answer for
Mike's like, I've been through everything.
Yeah.
So
Fuck
what did you do?
you,
You're
spray
like,
bottle.
did you punch a hole in the wall?
The
So I
answer-
mopped the floor, and then that was it. And the house was clean, and then I was like, I feel better.
Oh,
So,
good. So you won. You won.
yeah, I got through
Refuse
it.
to lose.
I got
Oh, I
through
like
my
that.
trauma
Refuse
of that. Yeah.
Fucking cat dish bowl.
Like-
The book came to be. So I wrote my first book called Make It a Great Day during the pandemic. It was my 40th birthday. I started writing it. And I won't get into how that got wrote, but Make It a Great Day, how to feel awesome so that you can help others. That was the big one with Make It a Great Day. When I was putting that title together, because I'm like, make it a great day, make it a great day. I'm like, for what? For what? How to feel great. But I'm like, well, okay. And then so that you can help others was a big thing for me.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of waking up and being quote unquote selfish as soon as you wake up. And I think within 10 seconds when you open your eyes, you know, I'm good, right? I'm not sick, nothing hurts. Cool.
Yeah.
So now what? So now it's my wife, my kids, or the job for the day or whatever it is. My priority will shift pretty quick. But I say to people, if you wake up and you both moms or dads too, but moms for the most part, kids been up all night long and you're fucking exhausted.
Yep.
What's your priority? How's my kid? They're sleeping. Well, I'm fucking sleeping now too. Right?
Yeah.
Like your priority shifts. And then in my field, because I do a lot of insurance planning, people who resist insurance, like, hey, I get it.
Yeah.
If you're diagnosed with cancer, you're immediately your priority.
Right.
Immediately, you are your own priority. So make that a priority today.
Right.
So that was make it a great day. How to feel awesome. So then
First of all, though, fuck that. I'm like, go eat candy. I'm going back to bed. Do whatever you want to do. Play Xbox. I'm going to sleep.
That's a mom. Yeah. That's awesome.
I'm the exception.
So we took when Mike got a hold of me about doing more around his story, the Untapped 60, we brought Make It a Great Day and his story and put it together. So it's not quite an autobiography yet. Down the road, maybe he gets into like every little detail.
Yeah.
But we wanted the book to be, and it's written, this is the other thing to it, written completely different than how we speak.
Okay.
So on stage, we've talked about, I'm like, look, maybe I need to be a little bit choreographed. I got to remember a couple lines if I want to, say this and move into this, maybe I have to be a little bit rehearsed, but I try to be as authentic as I can. I go, Mike, don't change. Just tell the story. If anything, there's been times I come back, I'm like, you forgot to tell people you were in a coma for 8 days. He's like, oh yeah. I'm like, so we have to like get like 9-10 points. I go, you got to hit these points, but just tell the story. Be raw.
Right.
So we're really raw on stage. And the only thing is, do we have to be PG or not, depending on the crowd?
Right.
Like I've done a couple of public schools recently, so I had to make a PG version.
Because if you can get into like I won't call it the X-rated, but if you can obviously swear and whatnot, you can imagine if you're sitting there in the snow and you're throwing, there's a lot more.
Like, can we swear on this?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because I was literally in that ditch going fuck, fuck, like a million times.
A million times, right?
So I remember
again. Doing that.
Here I am again.
Right.
Okay, the first thing I thought when the bike was laying on top of me, burning me, and my leg was ripped off, is, oh my God, I did it again.
Again.
I literally, that was my first thought. So it's funny you just said that.
Yeah. Well, I feel that for you.
Do it again and get yourself out of this again.
Yeah. So I have to do it again.
The book's written completely different in the sense I'm like, we got to write this book differently. So when people read it, we want them to be on the journey with Mike. And we separate the pages. So it goes from his story, because I wanted to make sure people didn't get lost. It goes from his story, then it talks, there's some Make It a Great Day in there. So for example, around Jen's death and the suicides. Then there's a section on like suicide and prevention and amygdala hijacking and anxiety, depression. That separates. So it just lets people go, oh, there's some information in this book.
But there's a piece of reflection.
Yeah, just something else. And then, because if people want to skip that, you can see how you can skip it and then keep following the story. But the way we wrote his story, and I've said this a bunch, when we were doing Jen's section, I had the story from him. I wrote it and I sent it back to him. I said, listen, go off in a room by yourself if you want. I go, read this. I go, this is pretty powerful. I teared up myself writing it. It's going to hit home. If you don't want to write it this way, we won't. But if you're okay with it, this is going to help, right? So I was really proud of how the book came out that way. We couldn't speak the way we wrote the book, put it that way, right?
Okay,
like it's written in a good way, which I like. So so it just hits different audiences.
Yeah.
Right? It's important. You got to feel like when he tells a story, you can see you going like, we want people to read it and go, what?
I really admire that about you guys, because myself, like I'm trying to write a book, but it brings me back at times. So I really need to be in a really good headspace to do what I'm doing.
How long ago was it?
It was 2 years, April.
Okay, so Time.
So I have like a brief introduction, and then I have about 3 chapters, and I haven't really wrote back into it. I haven't gone back to it in
'Cause
months.
Jared
and I'm
knows.
okay with
Creative for
that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm okay
Because
with that.
give it some time.
But I'm
That'd be
doing more like
therapeutic,
speaking and
Grief work.
and stuff like that, and I find it very empowering.
Amazing.
And I want people to like. I love when people are like, ooh, like you can feel them getting into your story, because I think storytelling, and for me, it was so moving in my journey, or still in my journey, hearing people's stories and being able to relate to that.
You know why?
I admire that.
It's the connection piece.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
like you guys said, you want people to
connection.
feel like you want the connection, like, and it's there.
How quickly did you said you turned to the bottle pretty quick, right? But that, if it's only like a little over 2 years ago, was it like a quick stint of you were just hammered drunk for a few months?
I would
and then
say
you're
like
no, or
maybe like a year. Sometimes you still like maybe fall
well, we
into it
all
a bit,
let loose
but-
a bit.
Yeah.
Come
Yeah.
on.
I'm looking to I'm actually looking to let loose. I said to my buddy today, I said to Crusto, I almost went from here to Montreal today. I'm like, I need this. I need to go away. I
Oh,
need a
like
weekend.
it was like, so I work at college in Kingston,
Yeah.
and we were just wrapping up our semester. So there was about 2 weeks left when Gwen passed. So they gave me those 2 weeks, and then I went into my summer holidays. So it was, I kind of had everyone fooled. Like I was doing I had myself fooled.
Yep.
I was doing my day-to-day stuff. I was out gardening. I was seeing my therapist like weekly, if not by like twice, 3 times a week. And then I think like maybe 2 months in, I showed up to my dad's house very intoxicated, and he just lives on South Shore as well. So 5 minutes down the road. And I would do this every night often. I would load the dogs up in the car, and I would drink myself stupid, and I would drive. And I remember showing up to his house and, knocking on the door, and my dad's same kind of mentality, very strong, bold-headed farmer.
Yep.
And he opened the door, and I just had a bag in my hand, and I just said, I can't do this anymore. I said, I can't. I feel like I'm dying, and I just want it to end. And he just broke down, and he said, you would never forgive yourself if you hurt some other buddy's family or a child or yourself. And he goes, I would never be able to live with myself. And he just started crying, and he just held me, and I just said, like I'm not doing okay. And I think I thought I was doing okay because I was going to the gym and I was doing what everyone said I needed to be doing. But in hindsight, I was disassociating, and I was very sick. But there has been time since then where I'm like, one of those days, I'm just going to drink, I'm just going to have that. Or so, yeah, I'm lucky that I'm lucky enough that I have that resilience and that mentality from such a young age to be able to turn that off. But there are times where I'm like, well, I just want to turn it back on.
I think I was saying to this, the drinking part and for people who want to let loose. I've said to him, because I'm like I like to, if I go out and party, I'm like, I just want to get drunk.
Tie one on.
I just want to tie one on. I think it's important for myself, I know that I'm just masking this for a day. Mm-hmm. If I'm pissed off, or sometimes you just go to party with friends.
To have
right?
fun, yeah.
My wife's 40th coming up. I'm stoked.
Yeah, exciting.
On, right? But if there's ever a moment where you're like, I want this pain to subside for a minute, is if you're able to do it, which is way easier said than done, is that I'm just masking it for a day. Mm-hmm. Then I get back to work, right? Getting myself better.
Yeah.
Right or wrong, I don't think I would tell someone, be like, yeah, okay, I'll go with you, right? Get bummed.
Yeah.
It's cool. Cry or smash a wall or something, but then we got to get back to work.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
if it's every day,
Yeah.
then you're
Yeah.
Put a
problem.
deadline on it.
I got-
But you are good at that.
I got emotional for
getting
you
back
because I know the pain of losing someone. Mm-hmm. Not losing a child, but which is the worst, by the way, worse than anything possible. I can't imagine. But I did lose Jen, and I came home and found her, and I blamed myself, and I spiraled out of control. And like the pain you're in, and you hide it from everybody. It's not like I feel for you because I can see your pain right now.
Yeah,
I can see it in your eyes.
Yeah. Ooh, I think with death, you want an explanation, you want a reason, you want to know why. And sometimes, a good friend of mine after was like, sometimes there's no explanations and there's no reasons and there's no whys. But we just want to take control of it and be like, this is why she died. And Gwen was a medical baby. She died twice before she officially died. Like it was, she was very, but at the point where we were at, she was thriving. She was doing so good. And, I mean, she was moving mountains. So when she died, I remember saying, did I let her stay up too late? Did I let her eat the wrong things? Was she just being a kid and being normal? But I wanted to put blame on myself, right? I wanted to take recognition. So I just felt so strong. And there's still times where I go back with post-traumatic and it takes me back to those moments of her dying or the procedures. And it's enough to like make you want to just numb it. And I think that's something.
Drink.
Well, that's
and other things, you know, and I think that's something where I just wanted to, I remember, I could tell you, I don't even remember the night of her funeral because I was
a blur.
A blip.
I don't remember.
Right?
I don't remember anything. The entire fire department
we were just drinking and people were there and they were just drinking with me. And I remember sitting there and I'm like, I haven't even cried.
I was whacked out on drugs.
Yeah. Same.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't remember it. It's terrible.
Yeah.
So that's why I like when you guys say, just want to get I quit drinking, by the way, this year.
Yeah. Good for you.
And I didn't ever have a drinking problem.
Yeah.
But everything that's bad that's happened to me, there was drugs and drinking involved in my life.
Okay.
And everything good that's happened to me
Drugs
is
and
when I
drinking
stopped
too.
doing it. No, it's when I stopped doing all that stuff. Jared thinks he's funny, but he's not. So I just cut it out. And so I've been off the booze and I don't do drugs anymore. But it's easy.
Yeah.
It's actually not that bad.
Yeah.
I've been going out partying with like my crew and stuff, and like I drive them home, and I get up the next morning, no problem at 5:30.
It's great. I love that.
I'm fine,
ready to go,
and I drink like the near beer, fake beer, and they think I'm partying. Some like I tell Jared this.
Yeah.
I was actually having so much fun. I felt drunk.
Yeah, you're high off the dopamine. Your own
It's
dopamine.
crazy, and I've never experienced that in my life because I've always been drunk or fucking stoned.
Yeah. See, I'm the kind of person, like you said, switch it off. Like I can do my Monday to Friday thing, and then like I'm like, ooh, Saturday. They call me Tanya because I'm like the Monday to Friday Tamara, and I'm doing my school stuff.
Tanya's your party.
Tanya,
working out, and then Tanya. It's like, where did Tanya come from? But it's. But at a point where in my life, there was a point where I was very not okay with it.
But you're in control of it now, and that's
the
main part is be in control. That's the only thing. Yeah. Be in control of what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Right?
Tamara's always like to have fun. Tamara is so good at having fun.
I mean, I'm from South Shore.
Yeah.
It sounds
You're
like,
Southie. You're Southie.
like a great big place, South Shore. I'm like, wow.
No, it's really not.
Is it
a little surfer town.
There's a few county roads.
Is it on the side of the creek? Or
so where Mike's accident was north, and then there's like the bay, and then there's South Shore.
Like between Bath and Napanee.
Oh,
well, actually,
I know
it's
these
before
places.
Picton.
It's been so long since I lived here. Right?
Adolphus Town.
Yeah.
We're the loyalists.
Joe, get us a map.
Samara.
the loyalists.
We are the loyalists.
Yeah.
We send everyone else back here.
I love that.
All right, we got real deep there. I don't know where we are now.
Yeah, well, we talked about a lot. We talked about a lot of things. Do you want to talk about Jen? Was Jen your wife? Do you want to talk about that?
Jen was my girlfriend.
Okay.
But we had plans for our lives together.
Yeah.
So I met Jen when I was in the gym, rehabilitating with my leg after my snowmobile accident. But I went to high school with Jen.
Okay.
And I knew who she was, and we were friends in high school, like passing by. But like she was a bit of a dark person in high school. She like dressed in black and stuff, but I know why now. Like she was through so much trauma as a young adult. Yeah. She was basically held captive and raped and then brainwashed and
that does stuff to you. So much
and like
stuff.
This guy is in jail for the rest of his life. He did this to other women. He did this. He was an evil crazy fucker. And
it's amazing how
anyways,
people can just live through that.
He ruined her life. But anyway, she got a hold of her life again. She became a yoga teacher, and she went to a yoga retreat and kind of found herself again or whatever, and came back and she was one of Kingston's like most popular yoga teachers. Wow. And so we started our own yoga studio, Life Yoga on the east side.
Okay.
And it was thriving. It was doing great. And life was good. I thought, I'm a firefighter. We were at a place on Dog Lake, which is like a really nice lake north of Kingston. And we were doing great and things were good. Yeah. And so, we went out for our birthday, 2011. Yep.
Same day.
January. Right. So January 9th, January 10th.
Yeah. Okay.
This is January.
I'm way older.
third?
Third?
17th.
17th.
Who the hell are you?
Oh my God.
Best friend for 16 years.
Mine is May
in
4th,
January.
but nobody ever forgets because
May
like
the Force
May the
be
4th
with
May the
you.
Fourth.
yeah.
That's kind of cool though.
So like you guys went out for your birthday,
And so she was supposed to come, but she's like, "No, I'm gonna stay home. I don't want to go out tonight, whatever." And I was just like, "No, okay, whatever."
Yeah.
And we went out, and I stayed the night at a friend's. I don't know where. It was a gong show night, and get back at about 10 in the morning. Got dropped off. The people that dropped me off just left, and I walk in the house and I go in the kitchen, and she's laying on the couch. And I'm like, "Oh, geez, you're sleeping in late, eh?" And I'm talking to her, and she didn't really move. And I was like, "Oh, well, she's sleeping." So I did a couple things in the kitchen, and then I went, "Hey, you gonna get up?" And as I turned the corner and looked at her, I was like,
Oh man.
"She's dead."
Oh wow.
And like I know how to do CPR
You've
and
seen
fix
this, you
people.
know, yes.
There was no fixing it. It was she'd been dead for hours. So I didn't do anything. I phoned 911, screamed on the phone until they got there. The firefighters, the chief and the firefighters, I knew them that got there. And then I had to go get questioned by police. Like it was just a fucking disaster.
Yeah.
Like, so you're like
Yeah.
in a grief phase.
You're
and
in shock and in grief, and then they're basically
interrogating. And
interrogating.
There's
you.
nothing worse. I remember looking at the police officer after Gwendolyn, and he was standing outside our door, and we were just told that like there was no way of resuscitating. There was no brain activity at this point, and there was a police officer standing there, and I remember looking at him, and I just said, "Do you actually fucking think I killed my child?" And
Right?
he goes, "No, I just need to stand here," and I go, "Take a step back and have some fucking respect."
Yeah.
Like just be human, please. Be a human for 1 minute, and don't be so fucking intimidating. You're already intimidating in this situation.
I had that feeling too. But
Please
I
walk.
got thrown in a room for an hour and
Wow,
something by myself.
interrogated. Oh,
Wow.
Jesus.
And then anyway, so finally got into there, and I stayed at my dad's for a while, but I was just
Of
like,
course you would. That's so scary to go. That's your home.
I didn't sleep for days.
It's your home.
Anyways, I blame myself because I let it happen, and I knew she'd had troubles in the past, but I didn't like her. She was really close with her mom. Obviously, she had talked to her mom right before she did
My
it.
mom didn't know.
Her
My
mom, if her
had
mom
no
didn't know
idea.
how would I know because her mom was so tight with her.
Yeah.
And so the worst part, for now is it's been years, right? Is that her family disowned me because they blamed me. They blamed me because I got on drugs after. Then I got arrested, and there's more to it that I normally don't talk about. But I was on methadone at the time,
Okay. Yep.
and that's what she used.
Okay. Okay.
I've never talked about that in my life.
it's
this
not your
podcast
fault
is
though,
opening
just
you
so
up.
you know. Like
Thank
that's
you.
really important for you to know. That's not your fault at all. It
But
sounds like
she knew, like she knows what that is. I kept it locked up.
But it's
It
not.
was
That's
where
not
it
your
was supposed to
fault.
be. I know, but if I hadn't got addicted to drugs,
But I think
that's what I
She
did.
was
That's
still
what I did to
suffering,
myself.
right?
Is I said, if I hadn't been addicted to drugs, I wouldn't have had to be in a program to have methadone. She wouldn't have access to that. She would. But now I know when
Yeah.
someone wants to kill themselves, they do it. There's no
Right.
fixing that.
There
You
was
can't
no
stop
showing
it. If we
it.
could stop it, we would 100% of the time.
Of course.
She would have used a knife. She would have used whatever she could to do it. I know that now, but at the time, I
Yeah.
suffered for a long time because I blamed myself, right?
Yeah.
And her family blamed me too, and they still do, I guess, because they never ever reached out. So that's still tough for me.
Yeah, of course.
I don't
As you
even
can
like
see.
saying sorry
Yeah.
because it just
No.
feels
I've never. So guys,
thank you
I've
for
literally
sharing.
never ever
Wow.
ever said that in public.
I don't know what's happening in this room.
I know.
Thank you for sharing.
Never.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think I honestly.
Yeah,
I
thank you for sharing that with us.
because I think this is so vulnerable, and I do think with suicide, it's so easy to blame yourself, and I'm sure a lot of people that will watch this be like, yeah, I can relate to
Yeah.
that, or yeah, that person doesn't talk to me because I was there at that time, or
Blame's a really easy feeling to place though sometimes, especially like around loss. We've lost a friend to suicide. We were
And it's the same
23
thing.
and I remember
putting
we were
blame on all of us.
young, and I remember
Yeah.
going through his closet and picking out what he was going to get buried in.
Yeah.
But,
It
like-
was the most fucked
But
up
every one
thing.
of us were like, if we answered the phone call prior to, if we went and seen him prior to,
Right.
if we made
Like, how did we
so
not
and so
know
go back
this?
prior to, if we just pushed his, like I think it's very normal, Mike, for you to think,
There's something that you could have done.
I want to put blame on myself, but I think everybody wants to make sense of a really shitty situation, and there's no making sense of it. I think by the sounds of things, she had a lot of demons,
Yeah.
and if she really didn't want to fulfill it, you would have known. But it sounds like she wanted.
Just
Yeah, of
some
course,
peace.
and I do know that now.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that all this emotion was just like
Yeah, talking about it
admitting
and-
what happened, I
Yeah.
guess, to the world.
Yeah. Thank you
so
for
certain
doing that
people
here.
do know that. Obviously Jared knows that and stuff, but
Of course.
it was like you know, it was just like a extra punch to the face because it was like, okay, well, she used what I shouldn't have been on in the first place.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
To do it. So.
Yeah, we understand how you can feel that way. Thank you for sharing that with us.
You guys just did this to me. I don't
Jesus,
know
what is
why.
happening?
That's why
You guys are weird this way.
We're witches.
We're witchy, actually.
Tamara, I was
think
just
it's a
joking.
podcast,
I was just
but-
joking about your birthday being on the 3rd. I know it's the 17th.
Oh, really? Are you? I think you're full of shit.
You won't
Capricorn
know. You
forever.
won't know now.
You won't forget
Okay,
it.
I need to know. I need to know. That was so lovely
Yeah,
for you to
no,
share
thank
with
you
us.
for sharing
Thank
that
you.
with
Thank
us.
you for sharing everything that you guys have shared with us today. We feel really like fortunate and blessed to be a part of your story and journey.
We're just like a tip of the iceberg.
The
There's
best
so
part
much
is
more
you
to
can,
talk
like,
about.
you can come on to him right now. You won't even know. And you're like,
I was like, I just want to.
and be like, what?
Touch it.
It's okay.
I
Don't
can't-
touch the button.
Honestly, can't feel that. So like,
I've stopped.
it'll make you
I've-
feel good. And
When
Can
kids-
I talk about this?
yeah,
There's another button there.
yeah.
Is,
So-
is that a button?
Show
Is
us
that
all.
really a button? Is it a button?
Are you happy to see me?
That's my titanium penis.
Push the button. I dare you. So
in front of kids, in front of my kids and other kids, they come over and I'm like, look, and I'll just
he'll
lay on his foot, and he goes, ah, just to be an idiot.
And so like
you're like, oh,
my kid's 4, right? And I go to pick him up. I pick him up today, and all the kids run over every single day. Hey, Robo Man!
That's it.
It's the cutest thing. And then they'll be like, "Can I push your button?" And I push the button, and I'll make a beep sound or whatever. It's literally like a thing now, and so they all.
I
call
love
me
that.
Robo
So
Leg.
does it control itself, or do you control it?
So these ones have a microprocessor in them. I have to charge it every 5 days. It's
I'm
got a
gonna
computer.
charge it.
Yeah,
What if
so
you forget?
I have.
Oh, I'm sure you have. Yeah.
yeah.
I forget to put the hearing
So if
aid on
you
the
forget,
charger all the
though-
time.
Yeah, well, there you go, right? So if you do, it just locks straight, so you can still walk. It just doesn't.
Okay.
It just doesn't do the swing for you. So the
Okay.
swing, it's got a computer in it that helps you with your gait and the swing of your leg and stuff. And then so that's from here to here. That's worth $120,000 from
That's
here down.
insane.
I'm very lucky
picture
to have
from, when
insurance,
he walked upstairs.
and I have 2 of them.
I'll see if I can
Yeah.
get it.
So one stays in my fire gear,
Okay.
with another socket, and if I get a call,
Right.
I pull this pin out. This membrane is stuck to my stump, to my leg.
Okay.
It comes out. I step into the other shell, put the pin
lock
in,
it.
and put my fire gear on and go. So I'm just as fast as anybody else getting on the truck, or faster.
Yeah.
It's just like putting 2 shoes on. I put a leg in a shoe. It's pretty cool. So my
Wow.
my leg guy Marty Robinson had to design this, and it had never been done before.
I was just
Right?
gonna ask, like,
so
is
this is a
special
patent,
for
like,
you?
Yeah, it's the only one at the time. It was the only one in the world, right?
Wow.
That's him walking upstairs, but watch the Lego snap on its own.
Yeah. So that's
Wow.
Very robotic, right?
Oh wow.
so it's the only leg in the world that does that.
And it was the way it lands perfectly. Because don't forget, like, he's only controlling that.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, he's just
Activating
swinging.
it, right?
He's just swinging it.
It's just
Yeah.
the movement.
Because this you're just moving that part of it. So the rest
you
has
don't
to
have. It has to do it on
and
its own
then
naturally.
it learns.
Wow.
And it landed perfectly
so
flat up the
crazy.
stairs. It's
So I'm very
yeah,
lucky
right.
to have coverage, right? Insurance.
Oh
Through
yeah.
through my work and through my motorcycle insurance.
Buy
So
life insurance, critical illness
I've had
insurance is
3
really,
of
really
these
important.
now. Yeah, yeah. And Jarrett's
Brought to you
right.
by.
Brought to you by.
This is why insurance is a
That
good
is so
thing.
funny.
Call Jarrett.
Call
Anyways,
Jared.
it's so true though, and I've had 3 of these, right? So right there's $360,000
Yeah.
just of this leg. I've also got a weightlifting leg, snowboard, skiing leg. It was $25,000. I've got a blade, a running blade.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
yeah,
Which is unfair, by the way. We talked about it. It's
and
unfair.
so it
It's
actually
unfair.
like propels you forward. It's really cool.
Wow.
Yeah, it bounced like it's awesome to use.
So it
runs
hasn't
10
slowed you
times
down
faster
in
than
any
it
way.
used
You're
to.
doing more probably.
Because when you land, it
yeah,
shoots
like-
you forward.
You.
Like I tell everyone,
So it's
I'm
unfair.
living my best
Wow.
life now. Like I'm doing
Yes.
everything. I'm doing more just to maybe prove to myself I can do it.
Yeah.
You got that extra itch and yet like
Yeah.
I did have
do
a
this.
question. I thought about this in the car this morning that I'm curious to know, like, losing a limb and going through that experience, how has that shifted your like view on circumstances? And like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like,
So I'm a huge believer now, and we talk about this, is like everything happens for a reason. It has to be true because I have been through hell, not once, but 3, then 4 addiction,
Yeah.
5 PTSD, depression, like the list goes on, right?
well, almost
And
every call
it's
you
like a-
take is like something you're
Well,
adding
then
to
my
the
job
list.
too, but I don't view it like that. But it's like, what's next, right? What's next? But then all of a sudden, at my rock bottom's basement's basement.
We haven't even
Yeah.
talked about the actual motorcycle
Yeah.
accident yet, but
Yeah, so like
we'll
the
go
motorcycle
to-
accident.
we'll
Do you want
go
me to
to
get into that?
Which one? The one to love?
No,
Yeah,
Yeah.
do that one.
Okay, so
Can cut.
2016.
Let's get to like, why do you have us? Why do you
Yeah,
only
why
have
do we
one
have
leg?
This
Yeah,
here?
so everyone thinks that's my only accident. We talked about this one.
Yeah.
So then
The
there's
other
this one.
leg.
So 2016, grew up on dirt bikes, motorcycles,
Yeah.
right? As soon as I could have them. Out for a ride on my motorcycle. So I'm leaving my friend's place that I was living at the time. I was a single guy, right?
So this
Still
is
living that
after you
life.
lost your partner.
Yep, and I looked for, like, I dated, but I had a problem. I was looking to replace Jen.
If it's in the
and
wrong
if she
places, yes.
wasn't just like Jen, I would destroy the relationship.
Yeah.
I was a terrible person to date. I actually have said sorry to 3 or 4 women that then they're married with children,
Yeah.
but I said sorry for the way I was because I just
just wasn't-
I was just
You were
I was
hurt.
I was a mess.
Yeah.
What is happening?
I was
in
a
this room?
disaster.
What is
And
happening
so-
in this room?
Lots.
Like way more than's ever happened in this room.
He's loving it though.
I
He
don't
loves
know.
every minute of
This is
this.
I don't know. I feel like this is like,
And so I really have.
This is the brand.
And they've accepted that apology because they were like, yeah,
That's
you
great.
were, and it broke their hearts. Anyways, carrying on, I'm out for a motorcycle ride, and I'm going down this windy road, and I'm doing 60 kilometers an hour. I'm not speeding.
No.
And all of a sudden, I see a flash of brown, and it's boom into the side of me and hits me. And so it was a deer.
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
And I
was
get
gonna
into
say
a speed
bear.
wobble. Yeah, a bear. Into a speed wobble. And I'm going like this, and I get control of the bike. And when I look up, there's a 90-degree turn in the road.
Was it Sherman?
So
Wait, was it?
we'll talk about where it was after
Okay.
because I think you're in the wrong spot.
Oh, okay.
It's okay. And so I'm driving. I'm doing the
We
corner.
still need that map.
Yeah, and going around the corner, and I'm bending as hard as I can, and the bike is like turning, and the peg scraping, and I'm like, I'm gonna make it, and the back tire catches the gravel,
Yeah.
and the thing just shoots out from under me. So as it's happening, literally everyone knows this. It's been in a major accident. Life slows down. And it's happening, and it's like in slow motion. I'm like, don't hit your head. So I sat up, and I tried to ride it on my butt, and I bounced a couple times off the road, into the ditch, into a rock pile down in the ditch, and then the bike comes in after, boom, hits the rock and lands on top of me.
Oh, of course it had to land on top of you. It couldn't
Right?
fucking land 5 feet away from you.
It couldn't stay up on the road.
It had to land there.
But when you
And so
hit the rock pile, what?
I
happened?
watched my right leg snap off at the knee.
Oh my god.
And so I just
How
watched
is
it
this
happen. It
possible?
was like it wasn't even real, right? So then the bike lands on me, and I'm like, oh my God, I did it again. And I was like, okay, what do? I gotta go in. I want to live. I'm going to save myself. I'm not going to fight this to the end. So I take the bike and I throw it up off me, and it flops over. And I look down, and there's this big white ball. And I'm like, what's that? And it was my ankle ball. My foot was ripped off. And my ankle, the white ball of your ankle, right? Right
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
It was just sitting there. And so I'm like, wow. And then I look at my knee, and my knee's dislocated.
You're just looking
out.
down at his leg, like
I
can
think
see the white
I
ball.
need to take a deep breath.
Okay,
keep going.
Oh, I am living in this with you right now. Like, holy, your
It's not even gross
storytelling's
yet.
great.
And so the next thing is I'm like, oh my God,
I
I
was
can't
looking
feel my
at
leg.
Tamara's ankle, and I was
And
like,
my
what does
knee-
it look like?
What does it look like? It's like my knee was pulled right off out of its joint and sitting over here, and there's a little piece of skin here, and I'm bleeding, and I'm like, holy fuck, what do I do? So I undo my belt, I rip my belt out, I turned it as hard as I could, tied it in a knot, and I'm like, okay, well, it's pretty good, got it for now. What do I do next?
Why did you do that?
Paramedics know there's a main artery. What's the artery called?
Well, it's your main leg artery. Let's just
and
say
if
that.
if you bleed out, you'll die. So that you
So
can't.
that's
You got to
why you
slow that.
cut
You
off
got
the
to slow that artery
circulation.
down.
And
yeah.
if you had a tourniquet, you could cut it right off. A belt slowed it down. So, and I know that buys me time, right? And so I was like, what do I do next? And I was shaking, and I was like, whatever. And I have my phone in my pocket right here, and I'm shaking, and I get my phone out, and I'm like, I'm not dialing 911 because it's gonna go to 911. They're gonna say, please fire ambulance. They're gonna transfer. I'm dialing right to my fire department. So I dialed all the digits, right, the 10 digits.
Yeah.
And I was like, don't get it wrong. And I got it right on the first shot.
Good.
Hit send. And it must have came up on the phone, Mike Laughlin. She goes, hey, Mike, how are you? I'm like, I'm fucking dying.
Did it again.
I'm on North Shore Road at the end. I'm down in the ditch. Come get me. And she's like, oh, okay. And she kept me on the line for the entire call.
Wow.
And she actually won an award for that.
Really?
And she just talked to me and just kept me going, right? And I put it on speaker and I set it down.
Yeah.
And then so I while I was down that ditch, all of a sudden a car drives by. I'm like, it didn't stop. So I'm like, what do I do?
Did they not see?
I was down just far
Canteen.
enough. I was on the other side of the road. They wouldn't have seen me. So I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? So I take my helmet off and I throw it up on the road, and I'm grabbing motorcycle pieces that fell off the bike and I'm throwing them up on the road like this. And I get on the road, and then so I wait a little bit.
At least see, yeah.
Yeah. So the next car comes in and stops. And so this little old lady gets out, and she, not old lady, but like in her 60s, late 60s, and she comes to the side of the road. She looks at me and she finds her way down in the ditch, and she just puts her arms around me and says, "It's going to be okay."
Oh.
And I was like, that's what I needed.
Yeah.
Right. I needed someone to be there with me. I thought I was dying the entire time. So I don't know how to explain it, but like this entire time I'm at my peak human ability to stay alive and stay awake. And I'm fighting it the whole way.
Because does your body just want to like...
You just want to lay down and die. You just want to literally you just want to stop.
So there's actually that psychological aspect.
It's there.
And you're like, I just want to stop.
And I know that's what people do. Like for the most part, they say like
that's
99% of people
stay awake.
Right. Because as soon as you close your eyes, that's giving up, and then you're done.
I wonder where that lady
I
is.
know that, so I kept fighting it. And when I say like, so that was 19 minutes of like fighting it as hard as I could, tooth and nail, just to stay awake and stay on top of what I was doing.
Yeah.
So I just can't. It's hard to explain to people that because it's like the fight of your life. It's a fight for your life.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah. Unless you're there. Right?
And you talk about like going back to the untapped part of him. Like we don't ever want someone to go through this, right? Go through what you through losses. Like that's not the point of it. And I was saying to Darcy before she left, just to talk about this stuff. Someone go, okay. Oh, sorry. Do you need a real life story? Hey, let me introduce you to Mike Laughlin. And then people are like, oh, I'm like, we don't want you to have to cut off your leg, lose a child, lose a loved one. Like the point is there's a lot of human potential in us to get us there. And oh, by the way, let's listen to this story where he had to literally use 99% of his human potential.
Yeah.
Maybe 100% of it, right? For all I know, I'm like,
so then I'm laying there and I hear sirens in the distance. I'm like, oh, I'm going to make it. And they stopped. The first firefighter there, I knew he actually went off on PTSD because of the accident.
Yeah. No doubt. Seeing you,
I felt guilt for that too, because I friggin', I did this to this guy. Anyways, so finally, when they started packaging me up, I remember I finally let go. I'm like, I did what I could do. Yeah. I was just like, and so the chief of South Frontenac at the time, he used to be my captain. He rode in the ambulance with me and, held my hand and kept me going. On the way in, they gave me painkillers, but it's not doing anything. Yeah. And so
is that because you're...
Yeah. So he's like, I can't give you anymore. I don't know why it's not working. I'm like, bud,
your tolerance.
let me tell you, I've done this before. I was an addict.
Mm-hmm.
I'm off it now, but he was like, oh, he goes, man, I can't give you anymore. We got to get to the hospital. And so like I suffered that whole 25-minute ride in,
and bumps,
every bump, everything.
Hospital.
And I remember we got there and it was just like, so we got there and the back doors of the ambulance open up and I'm in a neck collar, right? And I'm laying there and there's firefighters and fire chiefs all lined up.
Yeah.
So they were all listening to me scream and tell them I was dying on the phone and tell my family I love them and all that stuff in dispatch. And then they all jumped in a bunch of cars and drove down
to show up for
and
you.
basically, and so I get to the end of this tunnel. And this is the brotherhood and the sisterhood of the fire department, right? Like it's crazy. The chief at the time, he leans over, Sean Armstrong, and he goes, "Listen, Mike, no matter what, you still got your job." And I was like, at the time, I'm 36.
I can do this.
Yeah, well, I'm 36 years old.
Yeah.
I'm single. All I identify by is being a firefighter at this point.
Yeah.
And I fought to get that back after the accident, after Jen, after addiction. All I have is fire department, and now I've just ruined that. Right.
Your other leg.
Yeah. And so him doing that was just like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that I don't have to worry about that right
Reassurance.
now. Right. And he like smart on his behalf to do that.
Yeah.
That's what I needed. And so it was just like bees butted. There was like 40 people working on me and I'm just sitting there. I'm just getting...
But you're here again.
Right. I'm here again. And so I'm
like,
in so much pain though. And I'm
away
screaming.
from me.
And I remember they said, like, well, Jarrett and I we did a talk for a bunch of nurses and one of them said, like, I remember you screaming that night.
she was in the room.
Of course she would.
And I was like, she's like, it was scary. And I'm like, wow, because I don't remember it. But I must have been bad. And so the doctor leans over and is like, listen, I can't give you any...
picture up in that ER right now.
and they're like, I can't give you any more painkillers. We have to put you in a coma. And I remember begging them, like, put me in a coma.
Yeah.
Put me in a coma. Like, do it. And they did. And I was in a coma for 8 days.
And when you woke up?
And when I woke up, so I woke up and I opened my eyes And my mom was right there. And she's like, honey, don't move. You're okay. You're alive. Fuck, it's hard because when I was in a coma, it felt like 15 minutes to me.
Yeah.
Right.
But I thought I died.
Right.
Yeah.
And there was all these weird things happening in my mind. And I had accepted that I was dead.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
While you were in the
didn't make it.
coma, like what was that experience like?
It was like I said, it felt 15 minutes. It didn't feel like 8 days. And it was like almost like computer shutting down. Like the light was just going.
And you're hearing.
And then I woke up though, instead of dying. So she's like, you're alive. I'm like, okay. And she's like, but don't move. And then I realized I was strapped to the bed. So they had tried to wake me up a couple times already and I got violent.
A lot of people do that.
Yeah. So they'd strapped me to the bed and then I got this neck collar on. And I'm like, okay, the neck collar's still on. And then she's like, you can't move. She goes, and I look down and my leg's like in this leg's reattached in a halo. It's and it's all, there's no skin on it. It's like a skeleton. And she's like, you can't move, honey. You broke your back in 3 spots and you broke your neck in 3 spots.
Wow.
And I was like, what?
It's amazing that you're even walking.
Like, but I didn't know that. And I was in the ditch. I was throwing stuff.
throwing
And I
your
was
bike
moving
off you.
around.
Yeah.
I threw the bike off me.
Yeah.
I did
In a
all these
coma.
things with
There's
these,
his-
right?
he's in a
And it's like,
coma. There's
how am I
his,
not paralyzed? And I'm like, well, you're lucky.
Yeah.
You got lucky. So they put 2 12-inch rods in my
We're
spine.
not supposed to see it, but
And
that's
I
dead.
I didn't even think it can continue. You're half metal.
Yeah. And,
They put it back on. He woke up to that, but that's him.
oh yeah, there it is.
Yeah, that's him.
That's
A buddy of his took the video when he was supposed to.
Yeah. And so
That's
3
me
days went
sneaking
by and
videos.
this lag, so they'd come in every, it's like 6 hours and they'd test it for like blood flow. And this little meter they have, he'd put it on this foot and I'd go boom, 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 boom. He'd put it on this foot.
There was nothing.
And so I'm like, is there like anything? And he's like, oh, maybe, like he was trying to lie to me, right? It was a male nurse that was doing it. And so at the 3rd day, the doctor comes in and sits down. And I knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
And because the doctor hadn't been in the whole time. And he sat down and he goes, Mike, you know what this day is, right? I'm like, and I just broke down crying. I'm like, and
You
he's
have
like,
to grieve your leg.
yeah. He's like, we're cutting your leg off today. I'm like, okay. And so I agreed with my family. My whole family was there and we cried and did whatever. Yeah. And then I was like, screw this. I go, there's no stopping it. It's dead. They're cutting it off. Dad, grab me that iPad right there. And he's like, oh, okay. And my dad's like the same as your dad, right? He's just an old farmer, tough guy. And I go, look up, type in what the best prosthetic leg in the world is. He's like, yeah, okay. So he types in and this one came up. And it's like, this is invincible. It's waterproof, dustproof, bulletproof.
Which you would need.
This guy's standing there. He's a Marine, is a Green Beret, Nick Laverty. And he's like this big, crazy, like tough guy with this leg. And he's serving overseas with this leg on.
Wow.
And I'm like, that's the one I need right there. That's what I'm getting. And Dad's like, yeah, okay, right. He didn't know anything at the time.
Well, you still have this leg. Like, well, just
Yeah,
see
well,
what happens.
3 months later, I had 2 of them. So, right.
Here's the fucked up thing about this. And we talked about it because when him and I did a podcast where I kind of interviewed him, we just talked, the 2 of us, it's out there. And I clipped it and I posted about having a winning mentality. So what I know about him, and his dad would have done the same thing. I know Newt. Newt would have been like, sure,
like
whatever
we'll
you need
get there.
right now, we'll just do. Yeah, sure. I don't know, whatever she wants.
Cherry, grape, or
Sound like a-
watermelon. I don't really like bubbly, but if I was gonna like them, I would
Isn't
want
it bubbly?
cherry.
Bubbly. Yeah.
Buble, yeah, it's Buble.
I'll try
take
whatever.
cherry, babe.
I'll do the grape one. Is that grape one?
These are my
spoken?
fave.
Is this grape one spoken?
Yeah. No,
You
here.
might
No.
like these being not
Buble.
drinking.
Okay, well, I have 2, but you want to
Sure. It's
No,
black
I don't
cherry.
want one.
So
the,
his dad, yeah.
keep going.
So he right away, right, cries, and I've said this. I'm like, here's what we're trying to get people to understand, and it's not that we don't ever quit. And I said this, I go, it's a winning mentality. He's like, I'm gonna do that,
Right.
And it's I've said people, I go, well, I still think, so I joke with him, I go, I still think something's wrong in his head somewhere to be able to go, oh my God, get me the leg.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy fuck.
It was literally like that.
Transition
Process
fast.
this.
But this is what
Acceptance,
people
though.
can do. I'm
Right?
like, if you sit and go, I'm like, he was like, well, fuck, it's gone. Let's get better. And
Yeah.
that's the winning mentality. And that's the sport and the guy in him and the fight you have. And maybe we don't all have it.
Yeah.
Or maybe we can't tap into that.
I think we're
Right.
all able to do it.
We're able
right?
to do
Yeah.
it, but when you can tap into it, and that's the part I
obvious.
promote. I'm like, it's fucked. To when he talks about this, and I watch people. I'm like, did anyone hear this? Within a couple hours, he's like, like depressed to like, let's go.
Yeah.
And maybe there's some psychology that someone could tell me more about what's going on in his
I
brain.
would think
but
to
this is
like
why
everything
he's
that
where
you've
he's at.
like
This is
trained
why.
with in your life, like all the hobbies and the things that you took on, you
And the
know,
sports.
for fun, they've taught you this sort
It's about
of
resilience.
this
100%. I relate it back to sports.
Yeah.
It's like I always
Right?
played at
Even
we play at the
hunting and
highest
things
level of
like
every
that,
sport.
like,
right?
right?
Football, rugby.
Yeah.
All,
you have to have some sort of resilience.
Yeah,
with going
and we
into
were
those
always,
things,
you know,
too.
the ones that didn't want to lose. Like, and when we lost, we were mad, and like, so I was, it does. It totally relates to that.
Yeah.
And
I think you can just, with any kind of situation, you can choose to either go down a really, really horrible path, or you can kind of make something. Not saying like everybody has to be Joe Rogan. I always tell everybody this, like, you don't need to wake up at the crack of dawn and do all these things and go hustle like him. Like some days, yes, but not every day. But I think if your mentality is more about, okay, I'm going to do this and we're going to get there.
That everything's
may not
like
be
a
there
choice.
tomorrow, but I'm going to. You just like keep holding on to that, I think.
And one of
a
the
little
things that I've researched over the years, and it's helped with this, is that I'll let people know, look, you got to understand how your brain works and your body works. So there's a chance, we're built to quit, sort of thing. Your body's built to say, don't do that. Your body's built to say, that's too hard.
Evolution, fight or flight, right? We want to like fight against it. We want to run away from it.
And we're built for that, to
Yes.
protection. Our brain's built for protection. So you have to understand on the tough days that I don't want to get off the couch today.
Yeah.
I'm thoroughly depressed. I'm whatever. Fuck, go do it.
Yes.
And
Am I whatever?
That's hard.
Is that why you pointed? You're like, I'm what? You're like, oh, I'm freshman. You're like, I'm whatever, and points to me.
don't take it personally. Okay, he's mean to everybody. He's mean to everybody equally.
So
You're like, I don't know what's going
I know
on with
over
you.
there. But when you kick the dish over of the cat, you can move forward.
You
from
could have
that.
thrown
You can
it,
move
or you could have been
over.
like, no.
You can
Tragic day.
You can get past booting the
Marks it
bowl
on the
of water
calendar.
over.
Yeah.
But I think that's been a big one for me, is learning, because there's days where I'm like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
I'm like, hold on, my brain
Yeah.
and your body's telling you don't do that because it's too hard.
Yeah.
Right. So go and do it, or find a way to do it. And that's a big message through this Untapped 60 in his story too. And because people now, you know, and I tell them, I go, when we came to me, I go, so I'm going to ride your coattails through this, and we're cool with that.
Yeah.
And some of our buddies joke all the time, like,
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, no, for sure. Because if someone, all the stuff that I want to do and project and talk about, I don't like to talk about the history. Like,
Because history doesn't matter though.
well, it certainly defines who we are today.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't want to go back and say, oh, let's not talk about Gwendolyn. I'm like, no.
Of
Like,
course.
but let's move forward. How
Yeah.
do we move forward?
Yeah.
And you can do that. And here are some reasons why. But I think with me and you know, the rainbows and butterflies, people, you don't know my story, all those things. Okay, fine. Do you need a story? Here, I'll bring in Mike, right? Or we bring in Mike, and people go, holy shit. I'm like, he's got the same mentality as I do, and he's been through this stuff.
Right.
So I like the fact that and our camaraderie that we
kind
have
of
together.
balance
We're a
each other
team,
out.
Yeah, just people need to have
I love
a
that.
story. I get it. So
We really are a team. He does the stuff that I can't or won't do, like, or just don't do.
Like
Like,
you and I, Kate, we're like,
and
we're the
he's done the stuff that I'm
Yeah.
not going to do. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
I don't want to be.
I'm
I
like,
don't
I'm
want to
cool.
be in your
I don't need,
body.
I don't need to die.
But it's
No.
also, and Joe and I talk about this too, and this is like things that we're working on and learning too, is like really like just learning to come out of your head and into your heart.
Do everything with
Right?
pure
With
love,
love.
and
Yeah.
intention.
Right. And so, yeah, like it's, coming out of your head into your heart and coming, like everything you do coming from that place.
Yep.
Yeah.
so to finish the story though,
Yeah.
from that day forward, I just put the hammer down. They do 10 push-ups, they'd say, and I do 1,000. And like, you know, take one step, I'd take 10.
Right.
And so like it just went on like that, and I really pushed it. And I found out, you know, no one had ever done this before. Came back and been an above knee amputee full-time firefighter.
That's
So I was like,
rewarding.
now I have a goal, right? And so I worked my butt off. And one day I had a meeting with the chief, and he's like, listen, if you can pass the physical test you did to get on, you keep your job. It's simple as that. You have to be able to do the job.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I fully agree, right? And ended up passing with flying colors.
Great.
How much shortly after did you return?
It was about a year and
That's pretty
forget.
incredible.
year and a half.
I forget.
It was a year and a half.
That's incredible.
Yeah, because I went back on light duty.
Yes.
You know, way before that.
Yeah.
Right.
And worked at like in a desk and stuff.
Yeah.
But then, so the kicker is, here's the best part of the whole story, is so I'm in St. Mary's
that picture too.
Hospital.
Yeah. Looking like
And
$1 million
I'm-
bucks.
yeah.
Looking awesome.
Looking like Joe Dirt in a wheelchair.
Oh wow.
So I'm 150 pounds right there.
That's sexy.
Right? And
even-
wheeling,
that's
wheeling
sexy.
around like that.
That's
so
what it
I'm
looks
bored,
like.
right? I'm living at the hospital.
There's the hat he was wearing.
Wow.
Where's the hat?
Don't fucking die. Yeah.
That's the hat he's wearing
Yeah.
all the time. But that's what he looked like.
You
So
still
as
have
he,
that
as he
hat?
tells his story,
Yep.
so he's wheeling around like this, I'm going to add to this story as you go because of this podcast has brought out the best. I brought out.
Yeah. So anyways, I'm wheeling around on board. I'm living in the hospital and I'm checking. I'm a man and I'm single and I'm looking for hot nurses.
Okay, so I'm going to jump in here because, as we said, like good-looking cat, good-looking cat. He's always been a good-looking guy, and I'm like, in his brain, he's still like, I got it. I'm like, you are gross. What is wrong with your head?
Here first.
What is wrong with your brain? He's like, well, I still look great.
Still like,
he's
okay,
a
I'm still
winner.
that guy,
That's
right?
what
A winning mentality is like, I'm going after broads. I'm like, what is wrong with you?
So I'm
Continue.
literally lost in the hospital because I was wheeling around looking for girls. And so I'm lost. I go by this one room and I stop and there's a nurse bent over her patient.
And you're like, perfect, just what I was looking for.
Look at that peach.
I literally said, that's the nicest ass I've ever seen in my life. And so I
nailed it.
So I stop and she's talking to her patient. And the patient is this. I'm in palliative care.
Okay.
And the patient's dying basically, and hadn't talked in a couple of days, and just was laying there. And she was talking to this patient like she was talking back, like, "Oh, you're beautiful today. Let me." I'm like, "What kind of human is that nice that she doesn't hear you, but you're still treating her like that?"
Yeah.
And so I'm like, "Wow." And so I turn in. She turns around. I'm like,
okay,
oh
you
my
are pretty.
God, you're the most beautiful woman I've
yeah.
ever seen. And I got caught, right? Staring at her. And I'm like, I instantly in my head, I'm like, I gotta marry this woman. I'm gonna marry her. Anyways, we start talking, make small talk, whatever. I get her name, wheel back, found my way back to my room, Facebooked her right away, looked her up, creeped her, and said, nice to meet you.
Creeping.
Yeah,
We
right? And she later
creeping.
on that night after her shift said, nice to meet you too. Right? Good luck with everything.
Creep.
Yeah. So
Creep.
Life goes on a little bit. He loves it.
I feel like you guys are a lot like Tamara.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So anyways, I get a leg, start working out, start looking a bit like normal, and and she put something on Facebook and I commented on it, and then I was like, hey, do you want to go out for coffee? Right? You want to go on a little bit of a date? And so
were you out at this point?
No, he looked like that.
no,
he was out, but that's
how
what
I
he
met
looked
her.
like.
No, I didn't still look like that.
No, he was working out.
I was working out. This is when we went on our date trip.
Okay.
And so we go out for a coffee and we're walking back to the car and we stop at the car and I think I stole a kiss, like, and I think she just humored me, right? Because she felt bad for me probably. And I looked her in the eyes and I said, I'm gonna marry you and we're gonna have children. The worst thing you can do ever on a first date. She got in her car and drove away.
He said that. Yeah.
Yep.
Crazy.
So I'm like, whoop, fuck that up, right? And I was like, whatever. That's what it came out because I felt it and I said it at the same time. And so, anyways, I go back home or whatever, and I got ghosted for 2 months. I messaged her a couple times.
No
She ghosted
way.
me, yeah. And but this whole time,
Can
this
you believe
this girl,
this?
yeah, right. So this whole time, this girl's waking up thinking about me, and she's like, I don't know why, because you're crazy, but I keep waking up thinking there's something more there. I should have stayed. I should have done something. I don't know why I did this. And so all of a sudden I get this message, hey, like, you want to go on a second date? And I was like,
Yep.
yep. And, we got married in 2018 and we have a 4-year-old boy and I have a 14-year-old stepdaughter with Down syndrome. Her name's Kiana, and she's the best thing in the world. And I'm literally living my best life. We have a beautiful house. We have good jobs. We have everything we need and more. I'm happy. I'm doing this stuff to help other people.
Yeah, turning your pain into a purpose.
And it's all because I took a shot at my rock bottom.
Wow.
We are going to end it on that because that was beautiful. Taking a shot.
No, I have one more
at your
question. Then we're going to end it.
Bottom.
One more question.
She
Then we're
always
going to end
does.
it.
You guys are just like us. Look at this.
Sorry,
She's like,
one
no,
more question.
no. She's like, no.
I have one more question.
What a beautiful ending.
Joe's saying one more. Joe's saying yes, one more.
Okay.
My one more
Super good
question,
ending.
no, is like,
And
well,
then
what's
clip it.
next?
What's next?
What's next? What's next for U60?
so-
What's next?
Yes, what's next?
Jared, take that. Go.
Go.
Like, because we want to get in front as many people as we can, and we want to help as many people as we can with the
I'm in for
stories
that. I like that.
and what we
It's
and what
the
we
story,
do.
right? So the keynote speaking is a big one. I mean, the book's available. I can do the plug there. So at www.untapped60.com, the book's available.
It's a beautiful website, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I designed that. I designed that.
Did you?
I am not a website
really
designer.
nice.
Thank you.
Good for you.
That's all I needed today. Yes. So the book's available, which was important to just so people could have something. But what we ultimately want to do, because of our relationship, is we're traveling around Canada, U.S., doing the keynote presentations for people, so that they can hear the story and then get the tools and get the inspiration, motivation, as opposed to just the motivational speaker, make it a great day.
Yeah.
There's more substance to this. And like I said, every time we've talked, easily half the rooms have come up to been like, here's what I went through. I needed to hear that. And that's it. That's the win, is to get someone to go, you're good, right? Yeah. Call us, whatever. It's not one-on-one coaching. We're not therapists. But you're good, because here's a story you can.
And
get
I think
through
that's
this.
more authentic when you're not all those things. You're just like, I'm a person who's had.
I don't have a script. I just go up and do my thing.
Yeah.
And like, did you feel anything through that story?
Oh yeah.
Did you feel anything through that story? That's the whole point.
Did you? Jesus, you
guys. By the way, like you guys made me come. You guys made me heal today because I talked about things I've never talked about.
That is huge.
Thank you for saying
that. Is my win for like the week.
You guys,
that's my win for like my life.
It is a win because this is therapy, right?
Yeah.
Every time we talk, and I've told this story, I don't know, 200-300 times now. And you guys just pulled something out of me that I didn't want to talk about. It took me years to talk about drug addiction. Yeah. It took me years, it's taken this long to talk about what just talked about.
So I tell people like 98% of the story's been told, right?
Yeah.
And the small little details that might come out during the autobiography down the road, it's not going to change anything. It's just like more detail. Yeah. But I know we'll call it 100% of the story. And there's things where I'm like, well, what about this? I go, okay, we're not talking about, who cares, right? Mm-hmm. The big things, the accident, the Jen's suicide, the drug addiction, the motorcycle, and the love. Like that's the, oh my gosh, right? Yeah. All that. But to this day with Jen, I'm like, whenever you're ready, man, that's on your time, right?
Wow.
So this is crazy. This is
crazy. I don't know.
I've known about it, and it's up to him.
We're honored.
I'm very
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, looks like we're coming back here next week.
I'm ready to wrap up now. I have no more questions.
Okay.
Thank you guys for coming. We'll make sure that Joe shares all the links to the websites and your social media and things like that. So hopefully you guys can grow even more.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers
Bye. Oh, don't forget to subscribe.
Oh yeah, like and subscribe to our channel.